Hi, I'm Fred. I manage Friends of Bala digital strategy and its implementation throughout their whole ecosystem. Entrepreneurship is often described as a lonely journey, and yes, building something from scratch is taking risks, making mistakes, but also figuring things out as you go. But that doesn't mean you should do it alone, because I was alone most of the time. At Friends of Bada, we believe that the next generation of entrepreneurs learns faster when they learn together. So that's why we created a platform where students, founders, experts, and investors connect through real experiences and not just theory. So, for example, we have our Founders of Tomorrow on June 12th. It's an event, a one-day experience where young people step into the role of a founder. We also publish real founder case studies that break down the biggest challenges that founders face when they build their companies and the lesson that they learn throughout the whole journey. But we also host a Pit Slap podcast where founders openly share what entrepreneurship really looks like, the mistakes, the pivots, but also the breakthroughs. And every month, this is what's going on right now. We also run online masterclasses with founders, investors, experts who share practical insights. So for today's masterclass, we are joined by Karen Bach, a leader in the tech and innovation world with more than 30 years of experience scaling high growth businesses and driving transformation across industries. She is currently serving as a chair and non-executive executive director for multiple technology companies, bringing deep expertise in digital markets, telecoms, and strategy growth. Karen is passionate about supporting founders and leadership teams with clarity, transparency, and purpose. So this is why we brought her here today for this masterclasses, which is going to be about product market fit. So I don't know if I said everything, but please, Karen, introduce yourself and let us know.
Yeah, no, fantastic. I think that was a good overview. Yeah, I have been working for 34 years, which is a scary thought. I have done a lot in that time. So if I literally just give a quick introduction to me, the first sort of think of my career in three chapters. The first chapter, I was working for big corporations like General Motors. We had over 500,000 people in the world. Ernst & Young. So I was a qualified accountant. That was my very first job. So big organizations. And then I felt very entrepreneurial in a very corporate world, and that doesn't sit well. So then chapter two, I became a director of fast-growing tech businesses, almost all tech, almost all international. So chapter two was a lot of growth. So the very first business, I literally, from chapter one to chapter two, I went from a business with about 130,000 people to a business with 92 people over 4 countries. So big shock to the system, but I loved it. That was chapter two. And then chapter three, I've been what we call portfolio, so working with multiple businesses. And to your point, excuse me, to your point, I chair a business in climate or property tech, depending how you want to look at it. Energy, you can put any label on that company. With an AI consultancy who focuses with private equity and their portfolio or their investment companies. And then I do a lot of mentoring, which includes working with Creative Destruction Lab, who bring great academics with their ideas out of university and bring them together with business people and see what they can create. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
In a nutshell, that's a lot. Wow. Congrats. First of all, congrats, because this just want to make me ask a lot of questions. So can you begin by personally defining what product market fit is in a way that's measurable and not just a feeling somehow?
It's a really good question. And if you ask 20 people, 20 people will give you a different definition. It's almost like saying, how do I know I'm in love? And people who have been in love say, and you've never been in love, you still got no idea. So to your point, there is some instinct and there is data. One definition, so one of the salespeople I've worked with over the last few years, he put his definition of clients come knock on your door. You're not knocking on their door all the time begging. And when you start a business, you're always on that first journey because they've never heard of you, they don't know your innovation exists, or they've got another solution, etc., etc. So it's when you swing from actually, wow, I've just got lots of customers knocking on my door. That's not a bad definition. But then you can put all sorts of layers on that. And honestly, it depends on the customer and it depends on how forward looking you are. So to use examples, I think actually, well, let's go negative. The biggest mistake that I've made, I see people all around me make, is I have a great idea and I think I would buy this product.
Yeah.
But I go to 100 customers and then go, yeah, it's not very exciting. Or I like it, but yeah, I haven't got the money for it. And it's so that I think is the biggest mistake. I've got a good idea. No one else wants to buy it. You need to test that very quickly. Clearly, there's no product market fit if no one wants to buy it. The next mistake I see is people going to the client, and even the client says, yeah, that's a nice idea. And then, yeah, let's meet in a month. Let's meet in another month. Yeah, let's talk. Actually, what they're telling you is, yes, you could solve a problem for me, but you're probably problem 100 on my list of 500 problems I would like to solve in my business. So the best example I can give you of this is, thankfully with my phone, I've got a spam filter, so I don't get these calls very often. But I used to get very often a call from people selling cheaper electricity. So in the UK specifically. So the first thing they say to you is, would you like to save £5, €5 on your electricity bill every month? Technically, my answer is yes, of course I would. But is £5 or €5 worth any more than 2 seconds of my time going, I'm not interested, versus, yeah, okay, let's do this new contract, and then I'll do that, and then, yeah, I'm going to spend 20 minutes, half an hour that I didn't expect to do this morning, because it's not a big enough problem for me. So they're the two biggest mistakes I see.
Okay, yeah, I totally get it. It does make sense because for now, if I can share a bit of my experiences, that I thought we had the best service ever, and it didn't make sense to me why the first 12 months were just us working our asses off to bring people in, actually. And we sat down with a few people that started coming in the studio, and with this conversation, by talking to them, we understood where the real pain was. And I really think that made us put the energy into something that was worth it. Like you said, it should be worth it for them, but also for us to work on the things that really matter. But what are you'd say the first few actions that an entrepreneur like me that has an idea, let's say I want to sell cookies or anything like that, what's like the first few steps to go about making sure that the market is fitting, or the product that we are creating is fitting the market?
The one rule right at the beginning and in the middle and in the end, 15 years later, is listen to the customer. So the customer will tell you what their problems are and what they're trying to fix. And so let's take your cookie example. In fact, this is a real, I know someone who did this. They,
Okay.
and you're Swiss, so you will probably know what a Linzer tart is.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, not everyone will know what a Linzer tart is. So this person I know loves Linzer tarts. So I'm going to go and sell Linzer tarts to the local cafes in my town in
Okay.
England. Most people in England have never heard of a Linzer tart. So they went to a couple of cafes and said, would you like to buy my Linzer tart? And it was really nice. The cafe owner goes, yeah, that's really nice. And then the cafe owner says, all right, I'll try it. Come back a week later or a few days later, they have not sold a single slice of Linzer tart because everyone looks at the chocolate cake and the muffins. They know it. They don't want to make a hard decision. And they just go back to basics and default. So the cafe owner said, yeah, I don't want any Linzer tarts. That's such a basic thing. And that's really easy. You've got instant feedback. But when you're going into a big business, it's really hard and it's very easy to fool yourself that you have got a good idea. You're just with the wrong person. So especially if you're going in to sell something to, I don't know, think of a huge organization. Let's say Lidl. You want to go and sell to Lidl. no single person in Lidl can make a decision on your product. It's going to be a chain, there's going to be an authority, and there's got to be a finance angle, there's got to be a purchasing angle, there's got to be someone in the retail floor who likes it. There's lots of decision makers. And so I'm kind of going off at a tangent, but in those organizations, you have to go and speak with 10 or 11 people to get your deal over the line. So when you've sold to those kind of businesses, you do that. And so you almost stop listening because you say, right, okay, Johnny didn't like it, but I'm now going to go to Sally. Oh, she wasn't so sure and she's given me, and I think I'm progressing.
Yeah.
Whereas on my Linzertal, I got feedback instantly. So actually listening to your customer, and to your point, this is not data-led, or it's partly data-led. I'm thinking of an example. If I'm trying to sell 10 enterprises, big customers like Lidl, and 9 of them are really slow and say no, clearly that's data, and that's telling me I haven't got product market fit. But if I've got 2 or 3 that actually are looking promising, you could say I might have product market fit in part of it. It's really hard. And I feel like I'm almost making this more complicated. But to your point earlier, there's data will tell you one thing, instinct will tell you another, and you have to be really true. But ultimately, the customer will tell you whether they want to buy it or not.
That's so interesting, because let's say the other example. Let's say I make cookies and everybody wants to buy them. My friends love them. My family loves them. It's like the first few customers are going to be the people around you, right? And somehow when you grow, when you go bigger, and once you want to go to Lidl to say, I have cookies, my family loves them, and I have a bunch for you guys to sell, or even a coffee shop or anything like that, and then it doesn't sell. What is kind of like the mistake you see in this example, where we have kind of the perfect product, it sells, it feels instinctively that the market is there, and it fits the market, but somehow once you grow bigger, it doesn't work. What do you think about that?
That's really interesting, because actually you brought up 2 topics in one: scale, and then secondly, segmentation. So let's go segmentation first. Selling to the individual person in the market down the road is very different buyer persona. So we talk about buyer personas. That's a very different person, and how they think, what they want, how much they pay, and when. Is very different. Let's pick on Lidl, getting a good advert today. It's very different from the person buying at Lidl, or if I take a very British example of a posh supermarket, like an upper class supermarket would be Waitrose in the UK. Again, those 2 buyers, they're both supermarkets, but they're very different buyers. They want different things.
Very, very
so to your point, the Waitrose people might want a very healthy cookie that looks lovely, that's quite expensive. They might want it in a very nice packaging. Lidl, not bothered, cheap, packaging, very basic, off we go. And the individual don't want any packaging, I just want a nice cookie. So, and this is true in every single business. So if I look at so let's go into terminology. When you start a business and you start talking to investors, you'll often hear this word beachhead market. And a beachhead market is actually referring to, I'm going to land on the beach. I guess it comes from a military expression, actually. I don't know that, but it probably does. I'm going to land on the beach with my cookies, and I'm going to work out I can sell over here. And then I'll go overland and go over somewhere else. So beachhead market is essentially your first market. So in your case, that cookie, I'm selling to my local people. Excellent. I can have product market fit. I could have product market fit forever with a cookie in the local market. Excellent. But if I go to Lidl or Waitrose, again, they're 2 very different personas. I could have product market fit in one and not the other. My cookie works for one and not the other. And that segmentation is really, really key for the whole of your, if you're ever in marketing, segmentation is the thing you need to be thinking about. And one, before I come back to scale, and one more aspect of that is going back to, well, actually, even in the local market, who are you selling to? If you've got a family of four people, classic, stereotypical mum, dad, and a little girl, little boy. Who wants the cookie? Probably the children.
Yeah,
And mum and dad might eat half of it, but they're the ones paying.
mm,
So you've already got, with even that tiny little market, you've already got user, you've got a user, eater, you've got a user, you've got a buyer, and maybe you've got what we call an influencer. So let's say mum is the one that's going to pay. Dad is influencing mum and the kids' decision, saying, I want chocolate. You like vanilla, don't you? And the kids clearly are going to be the users and eats. And it's a very stereotypical example, so I apologize for that.
no, you're
But
good.
even in that tiny example, you've got a user, a buyer, and an influencer. And that think then go to Lidl or Waitrose and times that by 10.
Yeah.
So product market fit is very easy to say at a high level. Have you got it? Yeah, no. But when you come down to it, there's a lot of detail. Then going back to your scale point, so I did meet someone probably about 10 years ago who told me a story that I'm going to try to anonymize. His mum started making muffin cakes in their kitchen, selling muffins to the local people, local cafes. So exactly what we've been talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
He grew up, and then I guess he was a bit bored and didn't have a job, and said, well, mum, I'll help you make them and sell them. And so they made it, between them, they made this a much bigger muffin cake company. His personal dream, for whatever reason, was to sell muffin cakes to an airline. I'm just going to say an airline. I won't say who they were.
Yeah,
He wanted their muffins on every flight to this airline. And so he targeted them as a segment. They're very different from who he was selling to. And he spent 2 years getting into that account and did actually get the muffin or the cake contract in the end because he was so targeted.
yeah.
But the scale of making cakes for them and the scale of making cakes is huge. So the biggest question you're going to be asked is, how do you do, okay, you do 1,000 cookies a week. How are you going to do 1,000 cookies an hour? Can you deliver? Can you stock? Because if I run out of stock, I want it instantly overnight. So I don't want to wait 6 months for you to cook again. So product market fit is as you go bigger, has a lot more aspects to it. Does it make me money as the seller? Does it make my customer money in that case because they're reselling? Is my final customer happy with the quality? Because now I'm making 1 million cookies a week. Is my quality the same? Is the taste the same? Am I making money? Now I'm buying from all these suppliers around the world. Am I still making money? Have I got this stock? And part of that product market fit in that scenario is, yeah, you can hold my stock, you can deliver overnight when I need you to in Berlin or in Barcelona or in wherever. Yeah, it's again, you can simplify product market fit, but there's many details and it's unique to every company.
Yes, yes, for sure. I feels like it gets complicated once you grow, and I'm the kind of guy that is war on the. I will work my ass off till it works. I'm that kind of guy, and I'd say it's sometimes not the smartest way of to go about product market fit. Sometimes it is. Depends on when it works, when it doesn't work, because spending a year, patience is very different from losing time, right? And I really think that at first, for me, from my own experience, getting to know what product to work on and make like the best features and the best designs it's like getting the perfect product to go on the market. It's not the best way to go about it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
You're right and you're wrong. It depends on the circumstances. It's so difficult. I work with a lot of engineers or technical people, whether they're electrical engineers, whether they're physicists, like literally engineers and scientists who like being right, who like perfect. And sometimes your customer doesn't care about perfect. That's a weird thing to say. Of course, they need to have a product that works. So I've been in many different businesses, software, done a lot of software, and I'm not sure everyone, like an app, just think of it as an app.
Yeah.
You can put a feature in an app that you love and nobody wants to use. Or if I think of one of the many apps that I personally use, I use an AI-based email tool. So I don't use Outlook or Gmail. Well, I do, but I feed my Gmail into an app. Yeah. It really annoys me that I can't remove conversation mode in my email app. And I keep on telling them. And it is the reason I will leave them, because they're not solving it. They like it. I'm the client and I do not like it. And so it's really most honestly, I see founders, and I've been guilty of this as well. We fall into the trap. Well, I like it. That works really well. Yeah. Your client's sitting there going, yeah, I don't like it. Listen to the client. Goes back to listen to the client.
Yeah, always listen to the client. Client is king somehow, because no clients, no money, right? But somehow I could get why some founders and some investors also feel like sometimes when you listen too much to the client, depending on, let's go back to the cookie example, when it's like you love vanilla and it's like you see vanilla just going over the top above anything else, every other snack in coffee shops. But it's like, no, people in Switzerland, it's chocolate, 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 chocolate. Do you feel like as an entrepreneur you should follow, because it goes back to instinct, right? It's like, do you feel like you could make something else because the product will better fit the market, or sometimes you just trust your gut and you're like, okay, let's just say I'm not for Switzerland, I want to make vanilla, let's go to the UK because UK loves vanilla. Let's say, it's just an example, but how do you feel about going in the direction that you want to go in, and sometimes just going around the problem, the issue of like maybe not being in with the right audience for now?
So there's two aspects of that. I mean, there's many aspects of that, but the two that come to mind, I'm sort of just going to write them down before I forget. Okay, so if I think as an investor, I'm going to give you money to make millions of vanilla cookies. I'm only going to do that if it's in 3, 4, 5 years' time, we're going to sell your business and I'm going to make a ton of money. So my response as an investor will always be follow the client. If the client wants chocolate, feed them chocolate. I mean, literally, they're the ones that are going to pay you. If you ultimately want to be vanilla in the end, okay, we'll go into the, I don't know, the French market with vanilla afterwards, but let's get chocolate right. So as an investor, we'll always say go with the customer. And then the other thought process is, it depends what you as a founder want to do. So in one of the mentoring programs I've been involved in, some of the mentors are actually investors, and they just sit there going, is this going to be a unicorn company? Could it ever be a unicorn company? How big is the market? Is this team capable? Is it unique enough as a product? Could it really make a ton of money? But there are other people in the mentors room, including me, where you look at the founders and actually they're not bothered. They are not a founder that wants to be a unicorn. They don't want to be the next Elon Musk, and they're probably maybe not even capable. But they've got a cool idea. They could get 10, 50 clients, depends what they're selling, and they could have a nice lifestyle. And if that lifestyle is my goal and I earn enough to make some money, and then I go traveling every 6 months and I just keep my revenue going, or I could run my business as I travel around Australia, I could still be running my business. That's great. You can do vanilla. You can do vanilla because you don't need that huge market. You're just making what you love. There are enough clients to help you pay for your lifestyle. There's clearly lots of things in the middle of that, but there's no right or wrong. It's actually what do you want to do and who you're asking.
I love that answer. Love that answer. And what kind of retention level is kind of like good enough to justify the scaling, the way of like, because I took the example of making the cookies, like taste the cookies from your family. And when you want to go scale? Is like the family good enough of a retention level to say, okay, I'll go to Lidl right now? How do you feel about this?
In that example, no. I mean, Lidl's going to say how many cookies you ever made, and you say about 1,000, and they go, yeah, okay, I can sell that in one day in one store. No. It's you've got to build up. But interestingly, so what example can I give? So one of the businesses I work with, we have power sockets. So, you know, if I'm sitting in an office and I go and plug something in, whether it's my laptop, my printer, my fridge, in my office, we have AI embedded in those sockets. We know what you've just plugged in, and we can turn it off. So at night, 5 o'clock, everyone's gone home. We keep the fridge on, but we turn off all the printers because they're using power that is not needed.
Yeah.
It's a great idea, and again, I can use all of these things on that we've been talking about as aspects of that. We had a big beachhead market. You know, I could literally go back over the conversation and talk about this company. But where I was going with scale, if you go into a customer and say, you've got, I'm making this up, you've got 1 million power sockets, you're a big company, worldwide company, you've got 1 million sockets worldwide, want to buy our sockets, they're going to go, prove to me that it works, that they don't blow up, etc. So you have to go and do the smaller sales to get that credibility, to get the user case, to get the proof points, and say, actually, look, we've now done it in 70 clients. We're saving 40% of their energy, or 20% or 60% of their energy used. Look, this is real. This is real data. We can prove to you this works. So sometimes you have to build that up just to get credibility as you walk in the room.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's the first few, let's say, months or years that are very, very difficult because you need that proof. You need that proof to go above and to go beyond. Yeah. And like I've I've thought about this is that, you know, sometimes some things work. Let's say your sockets like really do work. You have enough use cases and it's like it does work, but let's say it's a product that already exists somehow. How, because it feels like the product is fitting the market, but how do you make sure that your product is different enough to win? Because you got competition. It's always about competition also. It's like you have to do better than the other.
Yeah. And interestingly, to that point, you've got competition, people who do similar things, but you've also got competition of, I do nothing. It's easier in my job to make no decision because I'm not very motivated to make things change. There are people like that. But it's also, it's risk aversion. So if I change my, I don't know, packaging, you have some lovely packaging, which is recycled, less plastic, etc. I love that. But I've been using this packaging company for 25 years. And I know that when we have an issue, they sort it and they replace it. I trust this supplier. So to your point, persuading me to change to your lovely packaging is going to be a real struggle. So actually, I mean, I'm now like, again, mixing this up. Some of your go-to-market or your product, finding your product market fit is going via the supplier and saying, okay, yeah, let's pick on Lidl again. Lidl is buying packaging from here. I'm just going to go and sell to the packaging company rather than to Lidl. And actually, I've got product market fit there because they're more innovative. They've got access to the final customer. Might take me 5 years to persuade Lidl, but these guys, it might take me 2 years. So I'll go in there. So there's that's a go-to-market approach. Go-to-market being, how do I get to my customer? And it doesn't have to be me and customer. It can be via somewhere else.
Okay, yeah, I totally get it. And with this like streamlining of who is above, who's the supplier, who's the final client, and everything like that, how do you help like teams simplify their whole communications, their message to serve that audience? It's sometimes difficult because you got the products and you want to test it. How do you go about telling people about it?
It's a really interesting question because, as well as, you know, you've got your digital marketing hat on, which is also changing. So we can talk about SEO and AEO or whatever we want to call the new version of SEO. It's a good question. You always have to segment. Customers want to be special. So when I'm in the mentoring programs, we might have 20 entrepreneurial teams in the room on the first day in the year. And I can almost guarantee that at least 15 of them will say, we can do our thing for anyone. So I can sell to pharmaceutical, like AstraZeneca, I can sell to the automotive, and I can sell to this. Technically, they are right in the sense that their product could do that. So it could be an AI algorithm that takes a huge amount of data and spits out the result. That could, and you could go into any sector. But so one, as a little tiny business, again, you need to go and find your beachhead. Find someone who will pay you, and that revenue helps you, the money they pay you helps you build the company. That's one, it's just focus. Second, when you go and say, I can do anything for anyone, your customers don't know who you are, and they think, well, you don't understand me. So take a fairly well, it's not exaggerated, it's a real life example. If I try and sell my AI lovely algorithm to supermarkets, and then the next day I go into a bank, I honestly, we look pretty stupid the next day, because the bank is going to come out with all these words. I have no idea. What do you mean there's a margin call? What's a margin call? As soon as I ask a question like that, the bank's going to go, you've got no idea. Like your software, your AI algorithm is never going to work for me. Go away. So even your approach has to be so different for each. We talked about segment, sector, whatever. And if you go into either of those examples, you're talking to the finance person, like the CFO. They want their ROI and when's my payback and what's my margin. Whereas the buyer might be going, okay, how long will my packaging last? Okay, I like that AI, but when I ask that question, it takes 5 hours to answer my question. I need it done in 30 seconds. So it's even within the same segment, even in the same customer, you've got different terminology. So the biggest thing, literally going back to our mentoring days, honestly, we constantly say, choose a sector and go for the one that are going to they've got a budget, they've got a need, and they're going to pay you quickly. And you might want to be going over your favorite, to your point, vanilla and chocolate. I don't know, my AI, I might want to go and solve a drug discovery problem, but pharmaceutical companies are notoriously slow in decision making. It might take me 2 years to sell to them, but in the meantime, I can go and sell to, this is a silly example, but the only thing that comes to my head is someone who makes a quick decision are usually people that make quick money, and Bitcoin mining comes to mind. So maybe I can go and sell to Bitcoin mining very, very quickly. They pay my bills for the next 2 years while I get into pharmaceuticals.
Love that example. Love that example. And kind of, it's not the last question, but I think we've like covered a lot until now. And a question that I had is that you have your product, you have your sector, and now it's like the price. The price is always like a question that we always ask ourselves, because we are always should we go above what we think we are worth it, or should we go lower? How do you go about like finding the right price? Because sometimes the client is telling us, what's your price? And we're like,
I don't know.
yeah, that's the thing. What do you do in those kind of situations?
Again, there's no simple answer. So in that early stage of your business, that phase is often called price discovery. I am still discovering my price. So I was with a company a few weeks ago, and they said it costs us, I'm now making up the numbers, these are not real numbers, but I'm anonymizing it, costs us £1 million to make our machine. So if we sell it for, you take the cost plus and you say, I want to make a 30% margin or 50% margin, I can charge maybe 1.5 million. Excellent. I've made 30% margin. Wonderful. And I literally looked at them and went, I think every machine is going to save them £10 million a year. Therefore, you can charge them at least 10 million. And it doesn't matter what your cost was. Charge them what works them for there. Now that's a great example. That's a positive example. It was like, oh my God, we can charge a lot more than we thought we could. But in the cookie example, or to your point, how do I make my product different enough? They have a really different product. But my cookies, how different are they? And therefore, can I really charge another euro more than the cookie person down there? So to your point earlier, you have to understand how I compare. You look at it from a customer. I have 10 choices of cookie. What's important to me? What would I pay more money for? What's not important to me? And if I'm Lidl or a supermarket, I'm going to resell it. Where am I going to make the most profit? So your pricing has to work for the customer. Ultimately, it has to work for you. And then one more aspect of this, because I know we can talk about this forever and I can always bring another aspect in. When you're first selling and let's pick on Lidl. Lidl wants to buy the first 1,000,000 cookies from you, and they're going to negotiate hard, really, 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 really hard. So you could say, you know what, I really need to make 30% margin on this, otherwise I'm gone. But you might say, this is my first big customer. Once I'm in with them, I can then go and sell with X. I'm going to have to lose some of my margin to actually get this deal. And that we often call as you buy the contract.
Yeah.
So you buy the contract and say, I go from 30% margin to 5% margin. Some people even make a loss because they'll think on that first 1,000,000, I'll do this. I'll make actually a loss. You cannot sustain that as a business forever. But then I've got that lovely logo and I can go on the next customers and say, oh, look at them. They're buying from me and they don't know the price. I change my price.
Very good. That I love those examples because you always talk about the positive side of everything, the negative side of everything, and there's always a solution, right? And
there's no right or wrong.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what is hard nowadays, that you have to test it out. It's always about putting into practice, experience, and experience. And that's what we are doing at Friends of Bada, is that putting those founders, those young founders, into an experience where they can just get their hands dirty. It's like you learn from failing. And if we can like kind of wrap up this whole lesson, this whole masterclass, we talked about segmentation, pricing, but also what is product market fit and where you go about all of this. How could you, in maybe a 5 or 6 step, kind of like give an action plan to the founders listening to us to go about product market fit when they have an idea?
I would always go and see as many customers as you can, potential customers, and ask them questions. Don't speak at them, don't pitch, listen. So ask them what their biggest issues are, what their current solutions are, how much they're paying. They might even tell you that. What would make them change? So if they have got a solution, how much do I have to be better? Do I need to be 30% better, or don't know, give me that benchmark. Go speak to as many, like 20, 30 customers and understand what they're saying to you. Then you know if your idea is a good idea or not.
Perfect. It's what I needed to hear. And I think that if I heard that maybe 3 years ago when I just started, I would have like maybe done a few sales quite quicker. So thank you. Thank you for this master classes. And we're gonna wrap up here if that's okay with you. Just gonna say bye to our audience, and please guys make sure to follow us on TikTok, on LinkedIn, but also follow Karen Bach, which is also very, very present on social media, and get to know what is product market fit, and check out our masterclasses that we also have on YouTube. The Pitch Lab Season 2 is coming up. We have, like I said before, our event on the 12th of June. So make sure to be there and follow what's going on around Friends of Bada. Thank you so much, Karen, for taking the time
Thank
and
you.
for this conversation. It has been so enriching. So yeah, loved it. Loved it. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. And I think we both need to go and eat a cookie.
Yeah, we need a cookie right now. Let's not go to Lidl, but let's bake some at the house or local coffee shops. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Thank
there
you
you
so
go.
much.